In this video, we will be tasting and talking about our recently harvested winter 2021 batches of Alishan High Mountain Xuan Oolong and Alishan High Mountain Oolong. We're here tasting our winter 2021 batches of Alishan High Mountain tea that we just sourced yesterday. And I decided to brew these two separate types of tea side by side because I personally am curious to see the difference in the oxidation levels between the Alishan High Mountain Xuan and the Alishan High Mountain Oolong. Basically, Xuan is the name of a hybrid strain of tea plant that has become popular in Taiwan. It's often referred to as milk oolong or milky oolong because of its fragrant factor. It has a very buttery and pronounced milky essence to it. And oolong, without any descriptive name, is referring to the Qingxin oolong tea strain that came from mainland China many decades ago, generations ago actually. And that's the most popular and in fact basically the only thing that's grown at higher elevations. There are some plots of tea of Tie Guanyin and others, but 90% of high mountain tea is made with Qingxin oolong tea. Xuan does best at elevations around 1,000 to 1,200 meters, and Qingxin oolong, as the general rule, they say, gets better with elevation. There's a lot of details involved in that assessment. A lot of the farms are around 1,300 to 1,700 meters. This farm is about 1,350 meters, and our Xuan farm is about 1,100 meters. They're in neighboring villages. We have two sources that we like to go to for these types of teas. Our first choice is where we got our Xuan from. It's a family-run farm. The factory is in their home. It's much more self-contained, and we can learn more in depth about where their tea comes from and how they work on a season-to-season basis. Our second choice is more professional in the industry, and it has its own sustainable points. Basically, it's a large factory that sources raw material from many farmers in their community. A lot of them are relatives, and they process the tea, and they are well in demand. They're in high demand, particularly for the Lugu Farmers Association Dongding Oolong Tea Competition. Our second source is top-notch, and they know what they're doing, and they produce a lot of tea. We like to go, when we can, with more of a mom-and-pop style. Small farmers support that really local industry, but we are not opposed to at all going for the most successful pros. So we went to our family-run farm first. We tasted both their Xuan and their Oolong crops of tea that they harvested in the last week or so. And these guys are going with the, well, there's a demand for competition tea. And tea that is made in preparation for the Lugu Farmers Association competition requires that it is oxidized significantly because it's going to be roasted. Xuan is much less in demand. In fact, it's not really in demand at all for competition. Our smaller source, their oolong teas, were well oxidized. They tasted nice, but that's a different flavor profile than the standard high mountain tea profile, which is more minimally oxidized, greener, fresher. In spring, it has a floral aromatic profile. It's just more, it's more delicate and complex, basically. When you oxidize the leaves more, it kind of flattens out the flavor profile and sweetens it and gives it a richer, more, a bolder character, but also mellower. And then when you roast it, those aromatic qualities come out with roasting that's done with skill and finesse. As I knew by tasting both of these teas back to back yesterday, the Xuan is significantly less oxidized than the oolong tea. And that's because all of the oolongs were made within the range of being acceptable for roasting and entering into competition. I chose the one that was least oxidized and still had a significant aromatic profile to it. It's fresh and fragrant. So I wanted to just compare these two side by side. We can see visually that the Xuan is lighter and clearer than the oolong. The oolong is darker in color, but it also has a glowing kind of luminescent quality to it that represents that it was well processed. I decided to brew the tea like the local professionals do it in the industry here, which is to put 6 grams of tea in the tea judging bowls and brew it for 3 minutes, and then take the leaves out and put them in a second bowl and then just let them sit. So we have a controlled brew, so to speak, in the first brew, and then the second brew has been brewing for many minutes, 15 minutes probably now. So I'm going to go ahead and taste. Yeah, a nice High Mountain Xuan Oolong. In my personal perception, and I don't think I stand alone at all, I think it's a general kind of conclusion, this area produces the best Xuan, High Mountain Xuan Oolong tea. The climate in the Alishan tea growing region is just ideal for it, and that's been proven. And there's most of the Xuan grown at elevation, meaning above 1,000 meters, is around this area, more so than any other high mountain tea growing region. This has been sitting for as long as it would sit. So I'm just going to go for it with this extra long brew here. See what we get. Way more substantial flavor profile, a lot more rich vegetal factor coming in, but still maintaining its buttery and milky quality, especially in the finish. The Xuan comes from the father-in-law's farm. Really beautiful place, really beautiful people. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about them because I really like seeing them and visiting them. Super down-to-earth, real farmers. They have all kinds of veggies growing all through their yards. And as well as small plots of tea. These aren't, they doesn't produce a lot in terms of volume, but they get a good 4 harvests a year, so they do fine. Yeah, oolong is really just oolong steadfast, or hopefully not too jaded oolong tea drinkers. They just want this kind of flavor profile. There's something just by nature or innately refined about the aromatic and flavor profile of Xuan Oolong tea that is well made. Great. I hadn't tasted since I was at the factory yesterday. I was really hoping, I had 7 bowls to choose from of the Xuan Oolong. And most of them were significantly oxidized, and I was like, this is really hard. I want to get something that our fan base, our customer base likes based on experience. So it needs to be kind of fresher and greener compared to the competition grade tea that they make. And in general, winter tea will be processed differently. It's easy, the easy way to say it is to be more oxidized. It's really just adjusting some fine tuning in the processing to bring out the flavors that are inherent in the leaf. But winter by nature is not as fragrant as spring tea. Some people like the more kind of denser or just less obvious, not so in your face aromatic qualities. It does offer a richer aspect and a mellower aspect typically. Steadfast. I mean, that brewed for a long time, and it's not astringent or bitter. It has, again, a rich vegetal profile. A little bit, something like pine or foresty kind of essence coming off it. Very full. I'm very pleased by brewing it. It's always different to bring the tea home and brew it at home compared to the water is different up in the mountains. Everything is different. The vibe is different. This is a subtle thing, and we're tasting a specialty tea, and it's going to taste different brew to brew, even in your own home. Really smooth, really nice mouthfeel on the second richer brew. Yeah, I'm pleased by the confirmation that it is not too oxidized. Basically, it's still fresh and green enough. The leaves you can see the reddening around the edges of the leaves and in the stems. That's where the minimal oxidation takes place, and then it will just increase and cover the leaf more as a more rigorous oxidation process is done. That's not common in High Mountain Oolong teas. The Xuan is noticeably more evenly green, just some orangey redness around the edges of the leaves. It's a lighter oxidation level. The dried leaves are very nice looking. They're both, the Xuan has a little bit more maturity to it, a slight bit of yellowing, a little bit larger nuggets, so the leaves were more mature, but not overly mature, not any significant discoloration showing that they harvested too late. Basically, it looks well within the range of, you want to get the leaves more than half mature, let them be substantial enough, but they still need to be tender enough. Really, it's really catching them at their prime, and it has a lot to do not only with the consistency of the leaves, but the actual constituents within the leaves. Before it becomes fibrous, before it moves into its full vegetation stage of growth. So it's still sprouting. There's a lot of more of a nutritional value, I believe, if that is the correct word to use, to a young leaf that's still within the first 3 months of its life, basically. These leaves are typically only about 55 days old, or about 2 months. The oolong is darker, more uniform. It was an interesting season this year. Above 1,000 meters, between like 1,100 meters and 1,800 meters, everything matured at the same time. There's a big traffic jam in the harvesting schedule. Things are a bit wonky in terms of how fast the leaves matured on the trees in these different regions. So there we have it. Freshly harvested Alishan High Mountain Xuan Oolong from our normal family-run farm, and Alishan High Mountain Oolong tea that we have been sourcing from for years now. We respect this source probably more than any other in terms of being a true tea professional. The big players show up in this factory while the tea is being made. And luckily, they've taken a liking to us, and we get treated well. So you can check them out. They're up for sale now. Go to ecochateas.com, go to High Mountain Teas, and you will find the unroasted oolong tea selections with these at the top of the page. Check it out.